And anyway, so once again,
Rami
what's your
Malek.
first? Okay. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, where a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who is super happy about episode 2 of Uzumaki. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Yes. And also, I'm super happy about the episode 2 of Uzumaki being here and having been watched by me. I'm happy that it is here and it has been watched. Um, as to the, I don't want to get too much into it, so I won't. But my opinions are evolving all the time and
And
spiraling,
shared by everyone worldwide.
shared by
So
everyone.
his like means that it must be your like,
Yeah,
and
they
that's
are.
why
They're
here he is to defend his stance on why it's a great episode. But we'll get to that one during the time of the shows we've been
you could
watching.
say my opinion is spiraling, um, out of
Oh, put him.
out of
All right.
control. So yeah, um, but yeah, I'm otherwise, you know, because I got Max is what it's called now. It used to be HBO Max. Now it's just Max. In order to watch this show, but also because there's a lot of stuff that I was wanting to go back and watch, and so I've also been watching a little bit of Sopranos because I'd never seen that when it aired, and I'm enjoying that as well. Uh, but yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. Have you ever seen Sopranos?
Forever ago. To be honest, I never finished it though. I
Okay.
I made it like halfway through back
Oh
in
dang.
uh the early days of like Netflix and stuff like that, and I remember getting that. But then life happened. I never got back to it. And I just had the ending spoiled for me. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, just spoil it for me from a buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I won't spoil it here, but yeah, like I know how it ends and stuff that I've even listened to like podcasts where they talk about a little bit of it. Um, but yeah, so it's um it's definitely not a perfect show. I don't think. It's a little bit wobbly, at least in that first season. Maybe it like hits its stride or whatever, because a lot of shows tend to be a little wobbly, even great ones in their first season. But I forget how HBO shows they just they're just much more like they're not so concerned with like you getting it, like whenever I don't know, like whenever your bad friend tells a joke that's not funny and then they go get it, get it, get it. I feel like that's most TV shows, and HBO doesn't really care if you like get it or not. It's like we know we wrote a good show and we know it's smart, and if you don't get it then maybe you should just move on. And I at least appreciate that where it's like here it is. So that's been fun. Anyway, Joe, how are you doing? I lost you on volume. Nope. Nope, still not.
Right
Oh, I think I got you.
there. Once again, yay for
Tech,
OBS.
technology, technology.
OBS and Discord sometimes don't always speak to each other quite right. Or at least for me, for some reason. But
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, how are you? How are you doing?
Super mad tired. Been celebrating a bunch of birthdays all back to back. And apparently a lot of people like to get busy in the spring, and because that's all our friends seem to all be born around this October November time frame.
Have,
So
have we talked about the thing in I don't know how true this is, but I was informed by some people, some Japanese people that I knew, some back in the day. So a lot of people in Japan tend to have birthdays in September, um, like an inordinate number of people or whatever, and at least that's the perception. And the reason for that, people say, is that it is lucky to conceive on uh, New Year's Eve or New Year or whatever. So, January 1 plus 9 months is about, is about in September. I don't know how true that is, but it's something that I like to spread and repeat just because it's interesting, not
I
because
mean,
it's
it makes
necessarily
sense if you
valid.
think about them not doing Valentine's Day like us, but them doing Christmas, like treating it like a Valentine's
They
Day.
kind of do,
It's that's the
yeah.
couple's holiday, and so and then that's usually more of the understanding. But yeah, it's no, it's we had a couple birthday parties and stuff for friends and family, and we got a couple more coming up. So this weekend's gonna be more of that. Uh, our kids are having lots of fun, just saying happy birthday to everyone and getting a bunch of good food. So
Cool.
yeah,
They're learning.
yeah, for sure, right? I mean, at least they're polite about it, but they also learn the fact that not every time they see a present, it's for them. So like,
Mm.
dude, don't open it; it's not yours. But yeah, we're doing all right here. All right. We'll just jump into the news now. We got a bunch of small little things, right? Not all good though. So why don't you
Yeah,
kick us off?
mostly small things, I think this time, but quite a bit of stuff. First thing it caught my eye is there's a article coming from Kotaku um, about a report done by a short seller about Roblox, um, and basically what it's saying is that Roblox is like inflating their numbers, and that it is I don't know it's a um, what is a good word to use instead of the P word that I'm looking for? Anyway, um, it is a problem for kids, uh, and
We don't make monetization off this, so you can say the word. But yeah,
it's
no, it's
that to use
people
their
who
term, it
are
is a
a little.
it is a pedophile hellscape for children. That is what its title. I think that's in the title. So yeah, so that's kind of what it's claiming. I read through the Kotaku article, um, a kind of detailed skim of it, and that's basically they're just basically saying those things and like laying out some data and stuff like that. So the thing is that I should probably explain, as far as I was able to Google, what a short seller is. So a short seller in investing is somebody that they they loan a stock from an owner, and then and then they uh, uh, and then they and then they sell the stock to somebody else, and then the amount of money, and then they give the full money back. I'm gonna mess this up, so I'm just gonna pull up what I had. Um,
I believe this is exactly what happened with
okay, here it is. Yeah.
the resellers. Is kind of what happened with GameStop stock that happened, like a year or so ago.
Yeah, so basically, investor borrows a security, such as a stock, from a broker. Investor sells the borrowed security into the market. Investor buys back the security at a lower price. Investor returns the security to the broker. The investor keeps the difference between the price that they paid and the price they received as a profit. So they sell that stock, and then and so they make money off of it there, and then what they are betting on is the stock is going to crash. They buy it back, and then with the money that they made in the first place, and they give it back to the person they borrowed it from, and then they keep that difference there. So that is what they're trying. That's what they're betting on, and that's how they make money. So when you have a report like this, and you know that it's coming from a short seller, at least that's what Kotaku is saying that they are. So I'm not going to dig too much into whether or not they are or not. I guess that's for somebody else to decide. But if that is true, then we really have to take this report with a huge grain of salt, because the person that is writing it is literally going to make money off of Roblox stock going down. So they're going to be incentivized to say whatever they can to make that go down. Doesn't mean that they are fabricating things or whatever, but the incentive is definitely there. I think anybody can see. Um, but still, they'd be in trouble for libel or whatever if that stuff is factually incorrect. So they probably wouldn't want to expose themselves like that. So anyway, all that is to say that this is at least um, this at least puts a mental note in my mind for okay, Roblox already has one sort of thing against it, and it was kind of dubious at the time, so I'm not really gonna dig too much into it. But like if I hear something else in a little while, then I'm gonna start to validate that first report, more. But basically, yeah. And I think like we were talking about this prior to the podcast, and I don't really know anything about Roblox. I know a lot of parents kind of do because it's in their wheelhouse like for their kids, but um, it's very popular among children, and apparently it is kind of a open forum for like anybody, you know, to get on there and kind of interact with kids and stuff like that. I think you were saying that you've known for a little while that Roblox might be a little bit problematic, or I forget how you worded it.
Yeah, it's from everything I've heard. It's some people don't care, but they kind of some of the talk behind the scenes of like you get a lot of kids can essentially the Roblox company makes money off of the creativeness of the people behind it. And so you get the kids to make a bunch of stuff for you and pretty much make the levels, and it's just like, yes, it's a creative space for everyone, but at the same time you're profiting off of the kids, uh sharing their inventive ideas with the group.
Their
And
labor, their
it's
child labor.
yeah, it's pretty much just that. It's just like it's a great way to trick people into child labor, but also because it's so unfiltered, you have to if you just let your kids go on the computer without thinking twice, just like if you let them surf the internet without any restraint, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that there's going to be trouble out there. So it's one of those things that it's not a curated spot. It's very much a wild west in a lot of ways. From everything that I've looked into, I personally would prefer my kids when the time comes to stay away from Roblox, just because it's like that's just a headache that I don't want to deal with. Um, have fun in Minecraft, play on your own quiet server. I mean, there's probably private servers on Roblox too, but
Yeah,
it depends on where the
yeah.
friends are, right? And that's the problem. Some groups of kids, like all their friends are there, so therefore, as a parent, you're like, well, I kind of got to, like, I don't want to be that person to completely ruin my kid's childhood because, or at least the immediate group of friends, because everyone else is playing on it. And like, I can't play because, like my parents won't let me, I can't play that Nintendo 64 game with you guys because I have a PlayStation or something like that.
Mm.
It's always one of those weird situations where the parents get you the wrong thing or ignore you what you want. So once again, it's a headache that I'll have to come to when my time comes.
Yeah,
But hopefully I can just skirt the whole problem altogether.
yeah. I figured it's probably. I mean, Roblox probably already has some stuff set up, where it's like, hey, parents, create your own server. Here, you can lock it all up and do it all this way, and keep your kid completely, off of like out of the public. I don't know that, but I would imagine that that is a chief concern at Roblox. If I worked at Roblox, I think that would be a high level concern. Is the safety of my customers. But
It's a question about parents though, right? Like how easy is that stuff to implement? Just like parental settings for consoles. Some stuff you have to dive deep into the console settings. Some stuff is like pretty easy, password protected and stuff like that. So different systems, different people, have different tech levels. So hopefully,
yeah,
like I said, I haven't bothered loading up Roblox or anything like that. But if it's easy enough, then yeah, great. But chance something tells me it's like it's all there, but you have to maybe hunt for it. And if you're not the most savvy, and if you don't like learning a new UI, then it might just be just enough hassle for for a lot of people to just be like, yeah, whatever. It's just a video game. Do your thing, kids. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't use my credit card.
yeah, like if I was them, I'd probably start it up with like a parent mode where it's like the first thing when you log in or whenever you start up the game for the first time, it says, "Are you a parent?" or whatever, and it's like, okay, so if you are, then it just sends you over to everything being locked down tight and creating like passwords and stuff like that, and then and like going out from there, but with the default being everything is locked and boarded off, you know. That's the way I would do it. I don't know if that's the way they're doing it, but I saw that article just now and I was like, dang, that's kind of weird. And then the short seller aspect being kind of like, it kind of undermines it because it's like, yeah, dude, you're trying to crash this stock. So, it's a convoluted mess, which is, always the best story. But yeah, that's it for the Roblox thing.
All right, what else you got?
Nintendo Alarmo is $100. I saw this thing on YouTube, popped up on my YouTube like whatever day ago or whatever, and I was like, oh, an alarm clock. This looks not great, but I'm gonna watch this, and it's less than 5 minutes, and I turned it off before that. So, so like, I heard a long time ago from somebody that probably didn't know what they were talking about, who said Nintendo is not a video game company. They are a toy company that makes video games. And every time something like this happens with like an alarm clock or amiibos or just this kind of idea, I'm reminded of that saying, because it reveals the mindset of the people at Nintendo, and it helps me not be like angry that they're not providing the kind of things that I like, you know. So if you think of them as a toy company first, then it does kind of like, it's like, okay, yeah, this sort of makes sense. But basically, this is an alarm clock that plays different sounds and has a screen, and it does like different things, and it watches you while you sleep and tracks your movements, I guess. And
Sells it off to third-party
and it
companies.
sells it to China probably. China. But and then you can have different sort of settings and stuff. And I was just kind of like, I watched probably 3.5 minutes of it, and I was like, this is not something that I would want. I didn't even realize it was $100. I turned it off before that. I was like, this is not worth any amount of money to me. So then later I found out it was $100, and I was just flabbergasted. I mean, if you'd asked me, okay, Nick, how much, like, Price is Right, how much is this Nintendo Alarmo going to cost? MSRP. And before I answered, you said, and it's more than you think. It's more than you think. I would have said, okay, $50. And so when it being $100, I was just like, come on. What is, like, who is this for? What, I mean, what,
It's for Nintendo fans. It's for people who still defend the Nintendo Switch after its long lifestyle, like, and all the new games that come out that play like crap. It's the people, because Nintendo fans are that kind of diehard mindset where, like, I will buy it. And I think your little thing about them being a toy company first that makes video games, that's a cute way to hide the abuse, but it's really not. And it's what it is it's you telling yourself whatever you need to do to swallow that pill and just take that beating. I think they've trained their fan base is what they've done, from amiibos to everything else. They're like, we know it's a stupid thing, we know it's a stupid price, and guess what, you're gonna buy it,
yeah,
and you're gonna thank us for it too.
I think
So
it's the both. It's that it's a dumb product and it's insanely expensive. Uh, that for what it is. I mean, that is just what is sort of kind of mind boggling. If it was one or the other, I would be like, if it was $100 and it was like did way more than it does, or it was fun in some way, not passively, like whatever, not annoying. I don't know. It seems really annoying to me. It seems like I don't know about. I don't know. I guess they live in a world where everybody just wakes up and has had enough sleep. But like, no matter what my alarm is, no matter how much I like the song or whatever that's playing out of my phone, um, I hate it whenever it's waking me up because that's like I don't know anybody who enjoys being woken up by an alarm. So
Isn't that why they have the smash button on the top? Like,
I don't
or at
know.
least I hope that's it's a light, but I also hope that's the smash button to turn like the snooze to turn it off because it looks like it's perfectly mounted for your fist to come smashing down.
Well, well,
Which
if
is
it
only gonna make it break because kids are gonna abuse the crap out of it if that's the case. So you gotta make sure that can take like a severe beating. Um,
well if I mean
but
if that like pound button or whatever on top had like a very small micro needle that when you pounded it, it immediately gave you a shot of like caffeine. um, that would be kind of cool. I would be like, okay, maybe I bleed a little bit, but I go ahead and immediately get my caffeine shot straight away. Um, that would be like, all right, I get it now. But anyway, it's going to be one of those things that you're going to see on the shelves of diehard Nintendo streamers. It's going to be a badge of honor, and so you're right in that aspect that it's for the super fans that want to pay $100 and have it been like lorded over you. That like I can afford this because I'm a diehard fan. Um, I don't know. It's probably not really worth being mad about, and I guess I'm not really that mad. It's just sort of, it's just weird. I couldn't see Xbox doing this. At least the fridge is like, ha, that's funny, and it
but it broke
works.
so often. So many of them broke real quick.
I'm
There's
sure, but they weren't that expensive, and it's like, what the f do you want anyway? And it's like a joke. So you're getting it's the joke is on you as much as it is on like whatever. So that's different. It's like, and it's an adult joke. It's like a, hey, we're all adults here, and
think that's key. That's the
yeah,
thing is Nintendo's targeting this towards kids who are then gonna target their parents, and
mm,
I think that's the
mobilize,
kind of, shady marketing. Honestly, it's I my love for Nintendo has
cooled.
dropped a lot. Like, the nostalgia factor, I love old Nintendo. I love my memories of Nintendo. Everything else is I've realized I'm like, I grew out of Nintendo. I will support them when it comes to my kids in the future because their stuff is usually well made, usually, and kid friendly, which is key. I mean, and simplistic and overall whimsical. That's all great. Uh, but just as their models go from here on out, and for business wise, I can't support it. So this is one of those things that like I just saw it as a joke, and I'm like, oh, I didn't actually pay much attention to it, and I was like, oh, so that thumbnail is real. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I just looked up just as a kind of as a random comparison, like a Virtual Boy adjusted for inflation would cost a little under $400 now. It was 170 in the 90s whenever it was released. But so like $400, and I just don't see this. I just do not see this alarm clock being worth a quarter of that. It doesn't seem like it to me. Like I always say, I'd be glad to eat crow on this. If somebody, I don't know, if I don't know if someone can make it make sense to me, then I will listen. But it is irritating, and it's one of those things that I'm wondering if they're getting this out of the way so they can produce so they can get this annoying thing out of the way, make their money off of it, and then it can get swallowed up and memory hold in the news cycle that will be the Switch 2. Uh, and we won't even really
Okay.
think about it anymore because we'll just be so
So
happy that that came
I
out.
just quick checked on Amazon. You can still pick up a Legend of Zelda and a Super Mario Brothers Game and Watch. Both of them together would still be less than $100 US. So there you go. That's a better use of your money because at least you have a little something to take with you. You can put it out your desk at work, and you can play a little game while you're at it. So that's kind of what I would do with my money if I had to spend it on Nintendo.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's Alarmo. Um, yeah.
All right, what else we got?
I didn't know this was a thing, but some dudes made a. I don't know how to really say this. Some dudes made a they wanted to see
Machinima?
if they could redo Hamlet in Gran Turismo 5 and record it, and apparently they did that a while ago, and then they made a documentary about doing that, and that documentary is coming to theaters. Um, and so I thought that was weird, and I thought I would say it on this podcast. I kind of want to see it. I don't want to think I want to watch all of it, at least the Hamlet, like what they recorded, um, and and I might actually even want to see a little bit of the documentary, just to be morbidly curious. Um, but yeah, that was a weird thing. I had no idea. I think they said they did it like in 2021 or something, when it's like they said two out of work actors got together and wanted to see if they could do it, um, and they did. Anyway, very strange, but weird.
Yeah, so when things like that kind of machinima was really popular back in early 2000s, Red versus Blue days and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So taking in-game engines and doing a bunch of like voiceovers and trying to make your own TV show out of it. So it's kind of funny that like I hadn't thought about that for ages, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, that's uh I guess Hamlet's an all right one to do it with. You have me curious now, and the fact that they actually are getting a documentary to be if it's actually a theatrical release, that's kind of neat.
That's
So
not nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, movies aren't what they really used to be, but theater. It's like if you're gonna put it in a theater, somebody must have believed in it at least a little bit, or it must have been better than it maybe should have been. But yeah, I forgot. I kind of forgot. That is what Red versus Blue used to do in the day. Um, and that, but I mean, theirs evolved quite a bit from what I understand, from like kind of some guys that were doing it to basically kind of rewriting some code and kind of doing a lot with what was there. That took a lot of technical know-how. I don't know how much this one did, but uh, very very interesting. So if I look at this and it's worth anything, then I might bring it up again later.
okay. Well, I'll take the next news segment. So speaking of Halo and Machinima and stuff like that. Well, the guys who made Halo, Bungie, then their side group, the 343, the people who made Halo Infinite, very important and all. But they're rebranding themselves now just as Halo Studios. So kind of a weird take. I mean, I guess after the last lackluster Halo Infinite release. Uh, they're the biggest change with this changing to Halo Studios is they're going from was that split space engine to the Unreal 5.
Mm,
And so I don't actually remember how far back split space engine went as far as them using it. So possibly, as far as back as early Destiny, maybe even. But it's one of those things that it really came out poorly. It was poorly received early on in the marketing of for Halo Infinite, and Xbox kind of suffered for a lot for it because they didn't have a big, you know, Halo flagship. Pun
yeah.
unfortunate. So the uh, going to an Unreal 5 engine is actually a smart move in a lot of ways. A lot of people really still champion having a bespoke engine that you can have for different studios. But even over in Japan, a lot of their studios are starting to slowly move over to Unreal or something, or a Unity or something like that. Because what happens is if you're getting people doing small bit work, like contracted work, you have to then train them on your house engine.
Yes.
Uh, or you have to find someone who's already well versed in that little engine you got. So it's a lot harder to get people to come in and do small segments of your job. Like, hey, we need someone to do this specific level design, to these backgrounds, to these certain animations. Well, you can most definitely get people to do just bit roles. We need vehicle tech. We need it's like explosions, this, that. So the other thing, and it'll hopefully make it a lot easier to, uh, for everyone to make the next Halo game. And some actually later on there'll be more talk about Unreal 5 because of this too. So yeah, that's kind of it. It was just
Well,
like 343 been with us forever. Like it was a household name for a long while.
yeah,
And Halo Studios. Well, um, I wish them the best because Halo used to be the biggest thing under the sun as far as gaming goes, and
yeah.
uh, it won't get. I don't think it can get that high ever again. But I think the landscape has changed too much in general to have really many things become that big. Just in general, it's just like you have to change the way an entire foundation is made now. Which there's so many independent, and smaller studios. There's just so much more variety. So you can be uh, a flash in the pan, something big for a short while. But I don't think nothing will have that sustained power as like a Call of Duty. Like that they aren't as big as they used to be. Fortnite was probably a big one of the most recent ones that had a strong foothold for a long while, but is nowhere near. It's still not as big as it used to be as well. So it might
Um,
happen again, but I just don't think Halo can do it.
yeah. Rebranding to Halo Studios is a kind of a big way to a big statement that they're doubling down on Halo, which I don't know if I would necessarily do that in this day and age, because Halo's kind of, to me, it's sort of run its course. I thought Infinite was good, but I think that the strength of Halo was um, started out in its story. I mean, well, it's always been the gameplay, but the story was really great, and then the multiplayer working with the gameplay was awesome, and it's just the world's kind of moved on from there, and people have come and eaten their lunch, in terms of Call of Duty and stuff. Um, and so it's sort of, yeah. I don't. If I was Xbox, I would probably table or shelve the Halo series for a while, and I wouldn't have renamed the studio to Halo Studios. I would have left it 343, had them work on something else, even that they don't really necessarily put their name all over or whatever, support or whatever, and wait for a good Halo idea to come to me. Um, that's what I would do, but maybe they have good things in the background. Anyway,
They do what Microsoft tells them. Uh,
I know, but I mean, if I was Microsoft, that's kind of the way I would be thinking about it. But as far as like the Slip Space engine to Unreal 5, yeah, like that is kind of that is always the the problem with in-house engines is getting people up to speed. And then also those engines have their own quirks, and they just sometimes they like don't work as well. I mean, like what is it? The Frost engine, isn't that what uh the like what is it time what is that what's the one that they benchmark all that they used for benchmarks all the time, um dadgummit. Anyway, uh regardless, the Frost engine, I think, was notoriously pretty hard to work with, and good in a lot of ways, but just hard to work with. um and in a world where you're laying off tons and tons of people all the time, and bringing on tons and tons of people all the time, it really doesn't make sense to have to be eating into the savings that you made whenever you lay those people off by having to teach the new people how to use your in-house engine. And Unreal, Unreal is doing gangbusters. I mean, they're doing really, really cool stuff. And stuff looks really good. Uh, in Unreal 5, I what I do like is that proprietary engines, they look different when the game is done, um, and with Unreal, and what's the other one? The other engine that you can use that I can't think of the name of.
Unity.
Unity. So like the problem, it's less of a problem now, but like with like Senua's Sacrifice, what is it? Is it Hellblade? Um,
Hellblade, yeah.
like that, you can tell that that first one is a Unity game, and for a while there, it was like you would see a new game that would be, you know, double A or single A or whatever, and you'd be like, that's a Unity game, and it just kind of takes you out of it a little bit. It doesn't mean it's gonna not be fun, but it certainly sets a limitation on things. Unreal has a little bit of that, not as much as Unity, I don't think, but it does have a little bit of it. And if everybody starts using Unreal, like across the board, then it might start to become a lot more apparent, which I don't really want to be kind of taken out of my gameplay experience due to that. Um, so yeah, it's
I'm assuming when you're talking before, though, you're talking about the Frostbite engine, right?
that's
From
it. Frostbite, yeah.
the guys who do Battlefield, like most famously,
And
so
Crisis, and then was Crisis
Crytek,
on?
that's Crytek who does, they do their own.
So Cry
So
was that
Crytek,
Cry Engine or something like that?
CryEngine, yep.
Okay, okay. Anyway, Crisis. I'm getting all my stuff mixed up. Crisis was the is the game that gets benchmarked a lot, or at least used to be used for benchmarks. I don't know how much it still is anymore, but yeah. So that clears all that up. But yeah, proprietary engines probably more trouble than they're worth at this point, and it just it makes sense. But those are my concerns. Um, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of encouraged to see that they're naming it Halo Studios, and they're seems like they're going to double down, go back into Halo again, because I wouldn't mind seeing another Halo game. Um, but I'm not that interested in it, so it is one of those things.
You just reminded me though because of talking about Crisis being benchmarked, and I remember a couple years ago or something like that. Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, he was on stage showing something, and he did the stupid thing of, um, but does it run Crisis?
Oh,
Joke, and like no one laughed, and he's just like, gamers will understand that one, and it's just like,
at a
oh, you out of touch piece of crap.
yeah,
Uh,
at a conference of gamers. Yeah.
it was
Okay.
just like it was very cringeworthy, but he thought it was funny, and he's the one who controls everyone. So yeah, but it was, yeah, very much. No, it's there's a lot of good to come out with when coming to your own engine. I mean, look at Resident Evil remakes, right?
Mm,
The RE engine has done a lot. The new Monster Hunter is going to be coming out on that as well. So there is something to be said about having the diversity in there, and it really does let you work with a bunch of different things well. Uh, and but for speed, like it might be one of those things that when it comes to a AAA studio, uh, if it can save, if it can make the workflow smoother and save some time, hopefully save some money, and therefore not have to come out with the like when the game is released, make it doesn't have to make blockbuster, like sales figures in order for them to break even, right?
yeah.
Because that's what's happening a lot. And you're like, yeah, it is hopeful that they're renaming Halo Studios, but then if they for some if and maybe because they're switching to Unreal, they'll be able to make the new game more efficiently and not get cut the moment they make the new game because it's Microsoft. So you can be like, and we're having a different team now. Make Halo from now on, because you can
Well,
see them pulling some garbage like that.
in a way, it's a little bit of a hedging your bet for Halo, or it's a bet against Halo a little bit internally, because um, with your own engine, you don't have to pay somebody to use their engine. But with Unreal and Unity, they have different pricing models. But essentially, if you're a major corporation like that, you have to give them a percentage of sales. So in this way, they also kind of go, okay, we still believe in Halo enough to make another one, but we don't believe it's in it so much that we're going to spend all this money on our own engine. We'd rather let somebody else do that, and then if we make gangbusters, then maybe we didn't make as much as we could have. But if we don't make as much, if we don't sell as much as we wanted, then we don't lose all that much either. It's proportional. So it's a different way to gamble at it as well. But yeah, it's something that at least I'd like to keep track of.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully, cheers for hopefully they come out with something good. And all right, next bit of little news. Hey, as of the day of this recording, October 10, we're doing a little early this week, but Doom 2 is now 30 years old. So yeah, 1994.
Crazy, man.
Hard. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't playing it at the time because my family didn't have a computer that ran, you know,
I
that's one
just
of those things I'd go to a friend's house to play it.
I just remember hearing about Doom um, as a kid in church, and I don't know if most churches were really like this, but just them being like, oh, it's like a bad game, and you fight demons, and it's like it's like this. It's just got demons in it, and it's like satanic and stuff like that. And you look at and like I didn't really play it because I was a very small child then, and so I wasn't allowed to. But also I didn't have a computer nice enough to be able to play it or whatever. But I go back and I watch YouTube documentaries and stuff on Doom and all that stuff, and it is so quaint. I mean, it's like there's like 16 pixels on the screen. Like that you can tell it's a demon because it's red, it's the redder pixel or whatever. And it's just so funny in hindsight the things that people freak out about that are just so silly now. And anyway, great game. I wish I'd been able to play it at the time. I know people were like losing their minds over it whenever it came out because sort of broke. It just sort of broke people's brains that it was so much fun and did things so differently that it was everywhere. And I'm sure people who got to play it have a much different uh, mind share about it, but that unfortunately is mine. But yeah, 30. Happy birthday, Doom 2.
All right. Let's see. The next thing we got is all right. The Until Dawn remake reportedly debuted with 28% fewer PlayStation 5 players than Concord.
Which was not a
Concord
lot.
famously doing gangbusters to the point where they shuttered their doors after like less than a month.
The question
So
is, did the Until Dawn remake also cost $200 million to make?
was it at four? I forget.
Four hundred
It was too
million.
much money.
It's I the first thing I heard was 200 million, and then someone said, yeah. I was like, it couldn't have been 400. Yeah, it was like 400 million. And someone said it may have cost, so maybe a little bit, but still 200 million was pretty wild. So anyway, I'm just saying it's like, hey, if it didn't cost that much, then maybe it can suffer with fewer player base, but proportionally, but still, yeah, that's probably not the best start
Yeah.
for a
Well, I
remake.
mean, so there's a couple things to that statement and to that effect because a lot of PlayStation, a lot of long time PlayStation Plus owners, they probably got the original game like I did for free off of PlayStation Plus at some point,
Oh yeah.
and that was the original one was done by Supermassive Games. Um, the new one is Ballistic Moon, so it's not even the same studio. Now just off the fact that it's mostly the same. They did change a little bit of story beats. They kind of tweaked the ending apparently, and because Ballistic Moon is supposed to be coming out with an Until Dawn sequel, and you know, it's one of those things that this game. A lot of people like the first game looked really good anyways. Did it really need to be remade? And because so many PlayStation owners probably already played through it when it was on PlayStation Plus, there's not a lot of replayability for this game. This was early on. Uh, Supermassive Games didn't have their a lot of their multiplayer features that they later did for the Dark Pictures Chronicles, like Man of Medan, where you could do either couch co-op or um, split screen, or like like over the internet, and then you could play different scenarios because you'd be playing as four people in the same area, but they'd be split up in two-man teams. So I would play as two people while you'd play as two people, simultaneously while something happens. So maybe an explosion happens on my side, and your team hears it, but you don't, so you actually don't know what's going on. That they really made some fun things in the Dark Picture Chronicles. Like they learned to amp up the multiplayer aspect, and a lot of people already considered the Quarry to be like, essentially Until Dawn 2, which
A
also once
spiritual
again had
successor.
multiplayer, features. A lot of the Until Dawn multiplayer stuff. Well, there was no Until Dawn multiplayer stuff in the original game. What they did is they learned from people who went, "Yeah, I'm playing this with a group of friends or my significant other, and I'm handing them the controller." So they're like, "Well, let's make that an actual game feature." So yes,
Hmm.
the original game was a little rough around the edges, but still a really great game. I think they had they had quite a few famous people in it, but they had the one guy who did Freddie Mercury in the
Yeah,
Queen movie.
Ravi. I forget his name. I'll think of
Yeah,
it
I never
later
knew it,
in the middle of the night.
but but I remember his face because the face tech was pretty good. And anyway, so once again,
Rami
once you play through,
Malek.
okay, so when you play through a game like that and you experience the story, there's not really reason to play through it again. Yes, it's a fresh coat of paint. Yes, it looks a little bit better. Now here comes the caveat. So the new game, being done by Ballistic Moon, it's kind of they switched over from the Decima engine to the Unreal 5 engine, which is kind of a another thing. Is like, well, if they're making a sequel, they're trying to drum up hype. There's a it's supposed to be a TV show coming out for Until Dawn as well,
Hmm.
and they're remaking the original game and kind of cutting their teeth with the Unreal 5. Like, let's remake the game, let's make it better,
Oh,
and use the Unreal 5 as, like, this is our way to train ourselves to make the next one, more efficient.
that's kind of smart.
Um,
You think about it.
it kind of is. It's kind of like what Rockstar did with when they made table tennis, right?
Hmm.
Like it was them learning how to work it, and they came out with something great. But in this case, like Digital Foundry goes a little more in depth on it, but there's apparently a lot of stuttering and stuff with the cutscenes. The cutscenes themselves are not smooth with this new remake, which is like, how can you mess up a cutscene? Uh, you know, there's there are some good qualities to it, but as a overall, everyone seems to be kind of lukewarm at best. And there's a couple other reasons behind the bad timing of this release, because you also have just recently the Dead Rising remake came out, and that one did pretty well. A lot of people seem to be pretty happy about that. But that's also being a remaking of a game for that was almost I don't think it was a launch, but it was pretty close to a launch 360 title. So revamping that game and making it like it's like really accessible. That's a great move, and a lot of people are interested in that. And then, of course, just this week, Silent Hill 2 remake by Blooper Team. They that just dropped, and it's everyone loves it for what it looks like. So it's a real rough time to come out with a game that's pretty much a just a heavily coded QTE game,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just and most like I said, because so many people who already, probably already experienced it, you're not gonna get a lot of new people, and there's not gonna be a huge draw to replay it, especially if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of little things that are gonna hiccup. Now, because there's so much other things in the works, like they've announced like a sequel, they've now the sequel game, there's supposed to be that TV show. There Yes, this may be a little bit of a black eye for now. We'll see. We'll see by the end of the month, right? Because more and more people want something spooky, so sales might still pick up for it, especially if they want a shorter experience or something more entertaining to show friends. Because it's kind of hard to show your friends on the couch co-op like Silent Hill. But with something like this, I think it has a better market and a better chance. But yeah, once again, it's a rough start for them. So
Yeah, and I mean, they are kind of going into uh, a minefield of other stuff that's coming out in spooky season. So it's a lot to compete with. And if you're not really putting your best foot forward, then maybe not the best idea. And I consider this kind of a lowercase r remake, whereas Silent Hill 2 is like a capital R remake. Dead Rising is probably, or at least Silent Hill 2 would be a bold capital R remake, and maybe Dead Rising is a
I hate to
just a
find out what
capital
you think a hard R remake is.
hard R remake, like Linus
That's the
Evertectus.
Stellar Blade remake, right?
Stellar Blade, yeah. Um, so yeah, there's so it's something that they probably, I kind of doubt. My gut feeling is that they probably didn't spend too much money, on this, and so they can maybe take a pretty decent hit on it. But still, you don't really want anything that you put out Dungeon Crush People for to really be the least bit maligned or thought of as kind of maybe less than par. Just because that really hurts you for like the next thing that they make, because then all the pressure is on reviews being stellar. So if you didn't have this and then your next game had 4 stars reviews, people would be like, okay, 4 stars is pretty good. A 4 out of 5, that's pretty good. But now that this has happened, um, if your next game is not 5 star reviews, then people are going to be like, yeah, it's not 5 stars, like 4 star reviews, and they had that other thing. So I think I'll just kind of, that other thing that's kind of a problem. So I think I'll just kind of pass. So yeah, it can have a knock on effect, and they should probably try to make a little bit better on it.
I think the other bit that to this is also it's a full price game, or $60 at least on PC.
Oh, that's a
And
lot. Yeah.
so that's another hard pill to swallow, because once again, it's a well-known property. It's subpar, as far as this new game goes, and you're not going to get a lot of replayability. So I think a lot of people are just going to sit back, wait, and guarantee it's going to drop in price come Black Friday, right?
Mhm.
Um, so it's one of those. It's unfortunately it's going to be they've already made themselves have an uphill battle now, because of the less than perfect release. And I do hope that uh, they turn things around. I hope that the sequel I hope they maybe patch out what needs to be patched, and come the sequel, they fix what needs to be fixed and come out with come out swinging, because these kind of games are really fun in their own right. Just on you know It is really hard to sell a heavily narrated game. It's most people. The walking. I've played many walking simulator, and in fact I played another one essentially that I'm going to talk about here. So I think that's about all I'm going to talk about for Until Dawn. Good luck to them, and hopefully they can turn things around, because the month is still early. So for sure.
Let's hope. But yeah, so you mentioned you played another walking simulator. So tell us about that, Joe.
All right. Ended up playing on the PlayStation 5. I played Lake. Now, this game came out a little while ago. I've heard It's one of those things that I've heard other people talk about it for a bit, and I actually don't know when the game first came out. I just know it's been on my low key radar for a while, and I happened to throw it on a library, wait list, and it eventually came to me. And so I was like, all right, let's. It's For those who don't know, Lake is sent in 1986, and you're playing a woman in the tech industry who's coming out with a new computer interface program. They don't really go much into it. You just know that it's going to some sort of like operating system, whether it's a point of sales thing for like computer for that kind of thing, or if it's like a Windows or a DOS like alternative, because everything seems to be, when she types, it seems to be like a DOS font kind of aspect. Um, and she ends up taking a vacation for a couple weeks to help out her father, who's taking a real vacation to like Florida or something like that, and she's going to take over his mail route. So because that was the 80s, and you can just take over your postal service route from a family member, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And and they're in like rural like Oregon or something like that. So uh, the art style is kind of a cell shaded look. It's and the whole point of this game is it's supposed to just be pretty chill. You deliver some mail, get some nice little narrative and story, and uh, yeah, enjoy your time with it. Um, and I wish I did. I can see the parts that I like. I can see the good points about it. Um, but it was just kind of marred with just enough imperfections that just kind of really, one thing after another kind of just annoyed me and just got a little grating. Now I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the PS5 version wasn't optimized properly. But for me, like right at the very beginning, the moment you're like your character is talking to somebody, and one of the very first lines of dialogue goes missing. Like they're just like the text is there because I have subtitles on, but nothing's being said. But then they respond just as if they got spoken to, and then their voice come the other person's voice comes normal like it should be. But I was just like right
Mhm.
out the game, I'm like, okay, wait, I reloaded the thing. It's like, did I accidentally hit a button? Did I just like X through that the dialogue prompt? And I'm like, nope, that is a consistently flawed line of text where there's no audio. Whether they recorded it or not, I don't know, or if it's just a glitch.
How early in
But
in the
that
game was that?
that was, like, the opening scene.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, you
it
can't
was
have that.
literally
Yeah.
before you actually get to move the character around anywhere. Um,
Yeah, you can't
and that
have it.
happens a handful of times throughout the game where dialogue is written on the screen, but whoever's speaking isn't speaking that particular line, but then continues to speak normally the rest of it after, in random spots. So, those kind of imperfections, I'm like, are instantly stuck out to me. And then as you get picked up uh, from the airport and you're being driven to your hometown, uh, it's really like the frame pacing is really weird. You're just juddering. Just it's very off, and it's like, wow, this is really rough. Like, luckily it does get better and it does run more smoothly, but there's still just a bunch of these really weird control issues and imperfections. I'm just gonna say all the bad stuff first, then I'll speak about what I liked about it at the end.
Mhm.
Um, but like even so, the whole like the it's kind of divvied up into multiple parts in this game. It's you can deliver your mail route. While you're delivering your mail, you can speak to certain people, kind of go through these little side quests. Um, people might need help with taking their sick animal to see somebody. So you can like, yeah, I'll just give me the mail guy your pet, and I'll take him to the someone else to have him looked at. Not a vet, but someone who knows something about animals. So it was just like it's a little silly because like yeah, you can't drive yourself or you have no other means to like all right, the mailman's just going to do everything for you. And it's one of those things that the map in the game, you hit R1 to go into the map. To exit the map, all modern games, you would just hit whatever back button, right? It's generally the 3 o'clock button on the D-pad, and so it is circle for PlayStation, B for Xbox. That doesn't do squat. You have to legitimately hit the R1 again. So the same button to go into the map, you have to hit out of the map, and it's not that big of a deal, but it's common muscle memory dictates that that's like the back button. You do that, um, and there's a bunch of small quips, like little irritations about the game when it comes to like going into the mail truck doesn't register all the buttons all the time. So I go into the back of the truck to grab a package, hit X to pick up the package. Then she just shuts that you hit X to shut the door. She shuts the door. And I'm like, but I have no package. Then I go back into it, grab the package finally and then shut the door. And it's happened a number of times. I'm like, this game isn't that complex. Why are you having such little issues? Or if you're in front of a mailbox to deliver mail, sometimes if you're impatient and you're tapping X to try to get into the animation to deliver mail, you can just X your way into stun locking yourself where it's trying to redo the animation and if you're tapping X, you can't actually progress. So you actually have to press, wait for it to register, then deliver the mail. Same with getting into the car. They don't get into the car like Grand Theft Auto. Every time you go to the car, you teleport. So it's essentially you hit the car, the screen fades to black, comes back. Now you're in the vehicle. You get out of the vehicle, fades to black, goes back. So it's always this, transition. You can't actually animate the person getting in and out of the vehicle smoothly. And because of that, you're also have, if you're like, I want to get in the car, quick, 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 tap X, and you can't get in the vehicle if you keep on tapping. So it's they make you take a slow approach, and it's just irritating as crap for me. I mean, but then again, it was just like I'm trying to play this game at my comfortable speed. I don't need to be playing it like I don't know. It's just like I understand how gameplay should work. And then if you're tired of driving everywhere, you can map yourself and auto drive that way. I'm like, that's great, except for the auto mapping is pretty rough. It's like Red Dead One or something. Like if you're trying to get the horse to go follow a path, but because it's very janky. My truck was banging against like houses and like hitting curbs and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, cool. So vehicle damage and also like just running into things doesn't matter. So as I'm driving, I'm like, okay, I'm going to the diner. There's a quick entrance to the left or a long sidewalk path to the right, and I will just plow into the fence on the left side, just full tilt, just drive right into the fence, smash in, all right, and then just jump out of the vehicle. That's what I like. I'm like, now that I know that I don't have to worry about. I ended up playing this thing kind of broken just to make it quicker for myself. Um, and as I said, these just the those little things are just it really takes you out of it. And like the radio station, it's like, oh, it's a small town, so a single radio station. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that okay, I get it. But they keep on referring to 80s stuff, and then they have the most like I don't know, Hobunk, like not quite country, but like we're obviously not like there's nothing modern about the music station. There's only like 5 or 6 songs, and they play on repeat all the time. And it's just like, yeah, this is not good. The music is not good at all. I prefer to turn off the radio station and just listen to the ambient noise.
Mm,
But they later on refer to real musicians and stuff. Someone goes to a concert, they go to a Journey concert, and they need your help to like watch the house. Um, and then they talk about like Cyndi Lauper comes up more than once in conversation, and I'm like, cool. You couldn't have anything like that in the actual music like settings. Towards the end, someone plays like debuts their song, and you can't skip that. So when you want to get the multiple endings, you have to sit through them playing their little song, and I'm like,
mm,
"Yep, I didn't care about it the first time you played it, I don't care about it now." So it's just like the music wasn't that great, and it was just, they just have some weird glitches in the game. I'm having a nice conversation. You can romance people in this game. Uh, there's a video rental store owner who probably one of the best things about the whole game is they have a bunch of fake movie posters, Back to the Present and Blade Jogger. Um, you know, it's like
all right.
like it was pretty funny walking through and looking at these like little poster boards and stuff
That's
like
funny.
instead of Labyrinth Maze, and I'm like, okay, it's just
I
like, all
get it.
right, that's but then they show real movies later on. They're like, yeah, that you can help someone choose between The Dirty Dozen or Jaws, or there's Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm like, wait a minute, what? You're now choosing to do like the real ones, but then you're having like ghost blasters.
Mm,
And I'm like, so it was a really weird juxtaposition where they choose to be legit and not. Um, but that video store lady, she comes onto your character hard and heavy. Like she really is thirsty for some attention. And like the moment you talk to your mom, like 3 days in to your route, she's just like, "So is there anyone interesting in your life?" And I'm like, you're like one of your responses is, "I just got here." She's like, "That doesn't mean anything." Like they really want you to hook up with somebody. It's just like it was very awkward.
yeah.
I turned the video store lady down. Uh and it's just like, all right, well, that later on there's someone else you could choose to go with, and then they do this whole depending on what your path is, you can either stand like slight all right, spoilers for this game. There's multiple endings. Uh you can stay in the town or you can go back. There's multiple other things, but you're leaving the town. What is how it is. And so he does the other guy option, chases you down and he's like, you need to like you could come back with me. And then you're like, "Well, I'm going back, so why don't you come with me?" And he's just like, "No, I can't do that." She's like, "Wait, you want me to live up uproot my life, but you won't do the same?" He's like, "Yep." And so, um, I was like, "Yeah, this isn't gonna work out, boy." But I did choose a path where I stayed, and then he still chases after you like you're leaving town, like, "I'm just doing my mail route," and he's just like, "You
Dude.
need to stay." "Oh, wait, you're st" it's like, I'm in the mail truck, I'm in my mail uniform, I'm delivering mail." It's like, "Yeah, so why don't you come with me to the diner and we can talk things out about our future?" And you're like, "My mail truck." He's like, "It's okay, you can just jump in my truck." It's just like, really? It's just, you couldn't
It
have given us a more better ending to this weird scenario. I mean, I understand if I was choosing to leave town,
mhm,
and then he pulls me over and he does the whole dramatic come back with me segment,
mhm.
but in this case, I decided to stay in town. I didn't
I
need
mean,
him to chase me down.
it
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 was
it sounds like the scope of the game, however small that it is, it was larger than the budget, um, or at least maybe the skill of the people that are making it. It sounds like they kind of skimped or really weren't able to accomplish the fundamentals of game design um, completely, and so they kind of added in maybe more things they needed to and left glitches and stuff. And maybe that was just your experience. Maybe other people have had a more normal experience.
I hope someone has a smooth experience with it because honestly,
But I,
uh, I've continued playing with it because I was legitimately curious where the story was gonna go. I had fun with it. There was, you can play your evenings differently. You can make plans with people.
I,
Um,
I do
you
feel
know,
like I remember this game coming up on podcasts. I feel like Headlander or something like that. Sorry, Nextlander. Headlander is a different game. Nextlander had something about it. I feel like, and I feel like the sentiment was has some nice ideas that are not really greatly executed and kind of a pass for most people. Was I think the sentiment that I remember, and it sounds pretty close to what you're feeling. Maybe a little bit more harsh than that, but
well, that's the
similar.
thing is I'll get to the good points now. And so once again, the art style itself is nice. It really does invoke a nice, just calm look to it, and it looks pretty. It is a chill game when it's not glitching on you, and the whole area is like just your map is essentially one little focal town at like a 12 o'clock position. There's a circle lake in the middle, and you just drive around it, and you just drop off very few spots all around. And it's a nice scenic drive. You can see some wildlife. You see like deer or a fox or something like that, and yeah, that's kind of nice. There's not much else to it than that as far as the looks go. There are fun interactions that you have with people. The whole point is your character left town after high school, went to university, and got a career. So you're returning 22 years later. So that means she's like 40. Um,
Mm,
and right now, like it depends on how you play the game. Since you're technically on vacation, but your company, you get calls from your boss, and he's just like, "Hey, I need you to help tweak this." You can probably turn them down, or ignore doing that when you do get it. I chose to do it, and then later on they ask you for help again, and I chose to do that. I pretty much chose to help everyone with everything. The only thing I didn't get to do was um, the video store lady tries to invite you on a date later on, like or something like that, to go see a movie in a different town, and I was already planning on to help with a project for the company that I work for. I'm like, yeah, all right. I was going to look over some papers or something like that. I'm like, I had to turn her down. Um, and they uh, I ended up going to, like, there's a single high schooler who's a mechanic, homeschooled, and they're 15, like almost 16. But because like they are too young, their parents won't let them watch like horror movies. So so the mechanic is a girl, your main character is a girl or female, and so therefore you invite her over to your place to watch Nightmare on Elm Street because she can't, like, she has no other friends because there's no other high schoolers. I'm like, Yeah, I guess it's the '80s and it's okay, but imagine like, I can't imagine that scenario flying nowadays where a 40-year-old person goes, "Hey, 15-year-old, it's like, why don't you come over to my place and we can watch a scary movie?" And I'm like, "Ooh, dude, that doesn't translate that well." Um, but it's
Yeah.
you being a nice person in a nice small Hobunk town. So it was just like, yeah, you connect with a friend, like an old high school buddy who and you guys have moved your own life, and I'm like, like, you got to catch up and stuff like that. I'm like, "That's all quaint." But then you're doing some other side quests around town, and one of them's, like, take photos, like, for a photo display for the market, for the grocery store. I took some photos, submitted them, then they got them developed, came back. I think this was a glitch as well. All my pictures were black. Like, I just don't think they loaded in,
Oh,
but I'm like, I'm pretty sure there was no camera lens that I was supposed to manually take off, but that's when I'm like, that's the first thing I'm like, "Was there a camera lens?" I'm like, that couldn't have been a camera lens on that thing."
that
Um,
yeah, that would be a funny crappy
but then
thing to
she's
do
like,
to you,
"You could
but it would be
submit which one," like, there's a contest, "Submit which one you want." So I randomly looked at all my black photos, I'm like, "I'm submitting you." I don't think I didn't win in the end, but I don't think you can. But who knows, maybe you could. If I know. So that was like, it's the game. I wanted to like the game.
yeah.
It did a lot of neat little things, but once again, it was just like it just did so much, like, for me, at the end of the day, I think if everything was working smoothly, this game would be a 6. Um, not complete, like, I would say, "Hey, if you wanna play something like this," but for me personally, the game, because of all the glitches and stuff, it's a 5. I think but I think for most people, if they don't, they can overlook all these little small annoyances. I think it's probably a 7 for most people. Like, when even at like, so at best, I think it's a 6. I think most
For
people would pick it as
for some
as a
reason you
7.
connect with it more or don't think the music
Yeah.
is as bad just because of your personal taste, then you might get
Yeah,
to like a
there's a lot of
7.
stuff, you overlook some of the hitching, and you don't smash the X button because you're impatient like I do.
Mm,
Um, there's a lot of, little things if you just wanna really take your time, and just, soak it all up, and then by all means, I mean, like I said, this might be someone's. I can't see it being over a 7 though, but, like,
yeah,
I think being generous with it is a 7. For me, once again, because of all the glitches, it's a 5, which is a shame because I did wanna like it. The trophies are pretty simple in this, so just with a single playthrough, I ended up getting all of them except for 2, and then I realized the last 2, I looked them up and they're like, "Oh, they're ending variations, cool." I had saved before the last day of work, so
mhm,
I'm like, so before I finished my last day of work, so I'm like, I just reloaded from that spot, and but then playing, like, I couldn't skip through a lot of the ending cutscene, like, the dialogues options. I'm like, "Why isn't this working?" Like, so I'm just sitting there just twiddling my thumbs, just like, "Alright, let's go," and wait until the sentence to end, then get to the next portion. Then I'm like, "Oh, wait." I remember in the very beginning when I checked the settings, I'm like, "There was a hit button to skip dialogue." So I went to my settings, and then after that, I was able to smash through the rest of the endings. Um, and then I also got to see how some of the endings were supposed to play out, because my original playthrough, I was on a date with this one guy, and then, uh, it's it was raining during the day. We're having a chat in the diner. It's not raining outside. Then when it finally ends, they kick us out to the parking lot as we're finishing our conversation, and the rain just sheets of rain just comes right down. So they're just chatting like normal, and it's just pouring on them. There is uh there's a light outside because you can see the light all around you, but for some reason my characters aren't lit up. They're not lit up, and it is, to the point where they are dark, and all you see is white eyes kind of floating in the abyss as they're talking to each other. So I was like, it was a really weird heart to heart. I'm like, is it just a lighting issue overall? And then playing through that segment again, the second time I played, the rain still happens. So the sheet, like, you just go outside and you're just having normal conversation in a sheet of rain, but they were properly lit, so I can actually see their faces and see them talk. I'm like, okay, that's better. Um, but yeah, it's just like I said, it's like even that late in the game, I was just like, there's still jank in it. And it's just like that.
mm,
It is just really, and then, like, like I said, this guy who chases you down at the end of the game, I'm like, I've only hung out with him like 4 times. in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks in this game, and it's already like this massive true love thing. I'm like, nah. Like they
Red
had some fun
flags.
moments, you know, but
Yeah.
it's just like I'm 40 and I'm thirsty and there's no one else left in my life, and I'm like, no, dude, you've committed to a career path. Like my true ending was she left. She left to go back to work because things went well, and she's like, "There's a you're going to be more successful, more happy because you've worked your butt off to make this company what it is,
Mm.
and you didn't stay behind." That is my headcanon for that one.
Yeah. It's kind of like you left for a reason and you made something different of your life for a reason. That makes sense.
They
Yeah.
they don't paint her as someone who hates her city life. That's the thing.
I
It's
guess they
not
have
like
tried to leave
her.
that open, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and it's just like, but once again, it was a little game that, I think for me, I think I registered like, just under like just about 8 hours to platinum the game,
Yeah.
and so according to how long to beat, just over 6 hours. Like
For
I
just the
explored.
pure main story. Yeah.
Oh, the main story was 6 hours. Okay, that I
Oh.
can buy.
For like
The last.
generally it's right at 7 to do main plus a couple extras and then it
Okay.
said 7 hours and 51 minutes I guess is the plat. So I don't know if that's the shortest or average or how they do that, but right about 8 hours, yeah.
All right. I ended up, like I tried speaking with other people, and I didn't realize until late into my gameplay, certain areas you can auto drive to other areas. Key points are like teleport spots. I'm like,
Mm.
oh, geez, I didn't really think about that. So I just drove a lot, which made me really hate that music even that much more because, like I
Oh.
said, there was only like a small selection of songs, um, and yeah, it was just I play a lot of I kind of like a good story, a good walking sim or something like that, and
Yeah.
um, this had the good ideas of stuff. It just did not pay off for me as much, and I was just disappointed by the end of it. But like I said, if it wasn't glitchy as it was, I would be okay with it. I'd just be like, yeah, 6. It doesn't change anything. Like I said, some of the things, the romance options and the story, like it's still a little heavy-handed, but I can see myself enjoying it. But I actively came away with this being like,
Stuff.
I'm kind of annoyed because
Yeah.
it was quite flawed.
Stuff that's eye rolling is not necessarily frustrating. It's just like, well, that's the way they want to write it. So you just kind of go, okay, and you just kind of move on. But when it's frustrating or it's trying to figure out if you did something wrong with the black pictures or whatever, yeah, you don't want it to take you out in that way.
Yeah, and it was just, like I said, they had some fun dialogue choices when you're speaking to your friends and stuff like that. And then I thought that was you can be cheeky a little bit, or you can just be a little more joking and sympathetic, or like so. I do like that aspect of it. I just wish there was more and it was more fleshed out. But it
Mm.
feels very much the concept of like a one of those quick flash in the pan romance slash like coming home movies
Hmm.
that you'd see like in the 80s and sort of like early 90s, like you know it's like because that's exactly what happens in any of those, right? It's like if you look at it as a human being that doesn't make sense. Like he comes back, like they're on vacation or they're coming back to hometown and hadn't been, like, and now in a mad fury of like a 3-day weekend, they happen to meet the love of their life. And they do all sorts of crazy epic stuff. And like, no, that sounds insane if you say it in real life. But it works for a Hallmark movie, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it feels like is like a lot of this, but the every especially, and I think maybe during the pandemic, this might have been more important because people wanted to be out there and doing stuff or being cooped up. But the idea of the stress and pressure of everyday life, and the idea of like being able to just be chill and walking around and delivering mail in a quaint little area. But then
Yeah.
you realize the reality of like, well, the Amazon delivery guys, they have to pee in bottles because they don't have
But
enough
but
time to take proper bathrooms.
but yeah, is there like
So
a setting where it's like a hard mode where you have to like poop in a bag or something like that? 'Cause that'd be kind
there
of
is a
cool.
endless mode, but I haven't touched it.
Like crazy taxi style of lake. Anyway, yeah.
I thought that would have been a great one, like, to have a game shoot where it's like Crazy Taxi, but you're just delivering
I mean,
mail, just
if they could reprogram it to do like a DLC and add a couple like poop in a bag or like a pee meter or something, that would be pretty freaking wild. But it
or
might.
can I just chuck a package from the drive like Paperboy style from the just drive by and just throw a box?
That's
But
in the
yeah.
new game plus is the the bag poop.
So, anyways, yeah, I like I said, if you want a chill game that has a nice looking art style, then maybe this is up for you. But for the average person, but once again, I just happen to have enough glitches and enough things that really irked me. And I do know that some of them, obviously, since I had played through the parking lot scene multiple times, that
Mm,
the um the color, the people having a void of light, um, that was just a glitch that one time I played. And the other two times I had to replay that segment, they were lit up properly, just being dumped on by rain, which was weird. So
yeah.
it was so someone else might actually play and not have come across as many issues as I did. Um, but also, if you want a good walking sim, there are a few others out there, but very few, I guess, have the country lifestyle that there's
Yeah.
the rural scenery as this one does, and that's what this adds to that others don't. All right, that's it. A little longer than I expected to talk about it, but turns out it annoyed me more than I realized.
Yeah. Once you start going, you kind of remember things and it gets your blood boiling a little bit. But that's I thought that was a good review.
All right then. All right. What have we been watching lately? It looks like you finished up a good anime, or at least one I personally like.
Yeah, I finished up season one of the Ancient Magus Bride. I did not watch season two yet. Um, I don't have plans to right now. I might in the future because this anime was pretty good. This season one came out I think in 2017. Um, and the long and short of it is it is a magical girl anime, um, but like on the serious side, it is a romance. I don't really think that there's a lot of comedy in it. There's probably some maybe tiny one or two sort of lighter
It's
moments,
it's comedy out of ignorance more than like like I don't know how things work kind of thing, or like it's like
sort
fish
of.
out of water kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like a you're not gonna laugh, but it's there's moments where things are just a little lighter. I guess is how I would characterize it the best. Um, and it's about a so I took a long break between starting it and finishing it, so I'm probably gonna get some of the details at the beginning, kind of off. But basically, it's about a girl whose parents are lost to them. I think her dad like left, and then her mom passed away, and she is magical, and then she is purchased, bought.
She's on
Yes,
sale at an auction for the most part. So
yeah, she's like sold at an auction to a guy that has a like a deer skull or like an elk skull or whatever for a head, and he is sort of dark. He is dark and kind of brooding, not super brooding, but a little bit brooding. Um, and he has sort of plans for her to come and live with him, and it's sort of like what is really going on here. Um, and it is sort of spoilers that probably aren't really spoilers. It's a love story between those two. Ultimately, it would seem. I don't know how the whole series ends, but it seems to be that way at least in the first season. So
how did you like find the love as far as because like
well,
it because it says bride in the title, but it
yeah,
never really felt like romantic. It felt more like just a familial bond. Like it was always a weird like I never got there was never a romance that I felt
I
really.
have the feeling that it will it is a super slow burn, and that season. I have the feeling that season two would have a lot more of that. To me, by the end of season one, they are getting more romancy. Not so much like in like kissy kissy type stuff, but in the way that they like care for each other. Um, so it does get more romancy like that. But I guess the problems, um, the only problem that I can think right off the bat and it's just sort of to me thing, um, is um, it's a little tropey probably. Uh, I think that she is pretty good. I think most of the characters are pretty good. The main dude though, whose name escapes me right now, um, he is a little bit conveniently one way and then another. Like when they need him to be brooding at the beginning, he's brooding, and then when they need him to be like vulnerable or whatever toward the end, and as it kind of goes, it's sort of not really ham-fisted, but it's just maybe a little bit out of character. It's it's sort of like what the girl character kind of would want rather than what the dude character itself would maybe actually be. So that would probably be my only legitimate nitpick about it. The rest of it is slow, but I like that about it. It gave me a feeling like a 90s anime, or at least like a maybe a 2000s anime, just an older style of anime where they're not so intent on getting a bunch of stuff done. There's a lot of quiet. There's a lot of still. There's a lot of just kind of shots of like movement and stuff like that, and they're not intent on filling in every little detail of what's going on. Um, but that being said, it kind of comes to a decent close in season one, like a good enough stopping point. Um, and it's like 20, I think 24, 25 episodes for season one. I think season two, which released a little while ago, a couple years ago, I think is the same length, and it's just too much for me to jump back into right now. But overall, I would say it's not bad. I forget what I gave this. I don't think it's definitely not better than an 8, and I think that would probably be a pretty high score, honestly. Let's see if I can grab it really quickly. I just off the top of my head, I'm thinking like 7.5, 7, somewhere in there. So, if it sounds like you're something you're into, then not a waste of time. Um,
I think it's
yeah,
a solid 7. Just
I
I
ended up
mean,
I ended up giving it a 7.7, which is probably a little high in retrospect. But there were a lot of things that I did like about it. Going through. So definitely not bad, I would say.
yeah. The animation quality I thought was good, what I
That's a good
remember
point.
of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And it's very much as far as the tropiness goes. I think it's for me the annoying. It's very much two people who don't know how to react or act around people. Um, the Elias or something like that. Elias.
Elias, that
Elias.
is his name.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
So Elias is he's the Magus. He's like he essentially just doesn't know how to deal with people as a whole, like
Yeah.
just interacting like socially. So it's just he buys her on a whim because she's has a magical connection. That's like the gist of it. Um, and uh, she's kind of like more like emotionally scarred because she doesn't just like um, she's pulled away from society, mentally
Mm.
and everything like that. So, they it's like them two helping each other open up to each other. That's kind of like the slow burn. And then also she's being introduced, thrown into the world of magic. So she learning new things about. He's at first the dynamic is a teacher student relationship, and then they slowly become more like like I said, I almost look at it as like a father daughter relationship in a lot of ways in
It
the big
is like that early on, especially. Yeah.
because yeah, he's trying to instruct her, show her the ropes, but then he gets angry when she does something foolish, but he doesn't realize
But
he's
it's always like a loving kind of anger. It's never like
yeah,
you
like
dumb idiot. It's always like I cannot
it's
believe that you
because
did
he's
that and put yourself in
yeah,
danger.
exactly. Those words, that line exactly. Like
Yeah.
being afraid of her well being, or she put her pushing herself too hard or messing with something she's not familiar with because there's repercussions to the magic, the Fey world or whatever. And no, it was. I remember when it first came out, it was pretty big in Japan, and we were there like, that's when I was still there, and, uh, I really enjoyed season 1. Season 2 came out, and I just sidestepped it altogether. I didn't mean to. It's like it's on my list, but it was one of those things that time and place type of thing. I just never got around to it. And yeah, I want to sometime. So we might come back simultaneously and have a review over that one.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you start
but
watching
I like
season
the
two, then let me know, because
yeah.
that might be enough to get me to watch it.
Yeah, no, but season 1, I would say it's a solid 7, easy, like,
Yeah.
that's at the low end, but, like, depending on what you're interested in, I was heavily like, invested in it at the time, and I remember I would recommend it to people who, if anything if you're like, any of these things sound remotely interesting to you, I'm like, "Yes, by all means." So, I would say it's for me, it's an easy 7.5 or an 8, but because I would actually an 8 is what I'd go out to tell people, like, "Yeah, you should watch this." But there's enough odd parts to it that, like, a lot of the people I know may not want to invest the time because of it being such a slow burn. Um,
Hmm.
if you're but if you're okay with that, then it's most definitely an 8. If you're not, I'd still say it's like personally, it'd be a 7.5 in that respect. I found it rewarding, I guess. It was worth my time, to watch. And yeah,
Yeah.
so that's cool. I'm glad you got to finish that one up. Yeah, because you started that one way back.
I did, and then I
So
dropped it. I think I made it through like episode three and a half or something like that, and then picked it up, and I was like, okay, once I pick it up, I'm gonna watch all of it, without a break, more or less. And I did, but it still took a while.
okay. Uh, let's get to the point of hot debate. Uzumaki, episode 2. Um, yeah. So the internet hates this.
Okay,
Absolutely
I
hates
haven't
this.
I haven't checked and see what people hate it, if people hate it on the internet, but okay, go ahead and lay it on me, and then I'll give my opinion.
All right. So what essentially happens is the quality dips quite heavily in the second episode.
Yeah.
Um, and like it's kind of being like like just raked over the coals because of it. Uh, between the quality of the character design. Like before, you have a lot of good shading, a lot of good depth. This episode 2 is like just all flat, pale white faces. Like there's no extra shading, no extra lines. Um, the ano- the actual animation work. Like there's a scene where they're running on the beach in episode 2, and the people get smaller. Their strides don't really get smaller, and so it looks like they're just gliding along. There's not. It doesn't provide a proper depth of like
Yeah.
perspective, so it seems really awkward. And the problem was like so now people have kind of come to the understanding that, oh, okay, the studio's changed. It's not the same people who are um
Oh.
so yeah, that's the animation studio was Fugaku for episode 1, and the animation studio is uh Akatsuki? So Akatsuki, sorry. It's Akatsuki for episode 2. The director's changed and the episode director is also changed. So a lot of people, um, episode director, for episode 2, so there's a director and an episode director, opposed to the first one, which is just a director for episode 1. So anyways, so the base director switched and they added an episode director. Apparently everyone's then throwing the I don't know how much of it is the episode director's fault, but the internet is blaming everything on that guy, and it's Taiki Nishimura, and apparently he's done some other stuff that people absolutely hate. So they're like,
Oh,
"Why
so he
is this
has a
guy allowed to
track
keep on
record.
doing stuff?"
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Well.
once again, this is according to Reddit and the people who like
Mm,
people are quick to lynch, and so therefore I take everything with a grain of salt because I'm like, I didn't do
okay.
my homework, but this is apparently the reason like people have come to the conclusion of.
Well,
So
people are gonna find whatever they can to hate. You know.
They need an excuse or someone to blame, and they seem to have blamed this person for it.
Well, if he's got a
Which
track record,
if you're
that is hard to get around.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the gist of it is like people are very disappointed with the sudden drop in quality, and then the only outlying hope is that when it's released to DVD or Blu-ray, they will up the quality then
No.
because this has been an ongoing thing for anime for quite some time. I never really knew about it until like when they remade those Sailor Moon. They started coming out with that. Was it 2017, 2016, or something like that. And some of the character models and figure like people were just kind of jank. Like
Hmm.
there's a famous picture of like Luna the cat who looks like an Escher model. Like her waist is like micro thin, and it's like the old Tom and Jerry if you took a belt around the mid waist and just pulled it, and so it's just like an hourglass figure for the cat.
Oh yeah.
And
Weird.
then
Yeah.
but then it's fixed in the Blu-ray when the Blu-ray comes out.
Oh, well.
And so that we didn't realize that was a thing back then, but apparently it happens a lot, and they even did something with similar to, Nier Automata, when that got the Blu-ray release, they changed up the CG modeling to make it
Oh.
look better.
Okay.
I read an article, I didn't actually get to see the difference, um, but yeah, that happens apparently quite often because the animation studios just are, uh
Rushed.
under such a heavy time crunch that they
Yeah.
have to cut corners where they can.
Okay.
Um, but still, that's your first impression to the world, and that's a rough one to do. So,
Well, I
uh,
mean, I kind of, I guess I didn't really think about that. I wouldn't think that they would change very much, but even some minor changes, like just some, and I don't know how hard it really is to animate that, but I imagine some silhouetted figures, small, walking more properly on a beach, probably wouldn't be that much harder or time consuming when you had a little bit more time to make better for the Blu-ray release. That and I know there's a lot more than that, but like even little things like that, yeah, they might be able to do, which would at least help the overall quality not dip quite so hard in certain spots. So hopefully they'll do that. I was going to save the rest of my criticism about this show until after the fourth episode airs, and I've watched that. Um, but yeah, it's I did notice there was a dip in quality, and I just kind of was like, okay. But but yeah, I know that it had a bit of a it had some delays early on, and I wonder how much that like affected the change in people who are making it or whatever. Um, but yeah, well, at least we made one step forward with Junji Ito stuff, and that's okay. It works better in black and white. Um, so we got that far. Maybe whenever they make the next Junji Ito thing in anime, they will do it one other step better. So we'll see.
yep. I mean, the thing is, like, with the plain faces of episode 2, everyone having just a solid color like face from ear to ear, no shading really, no nothing, and it's just like when it's just you can't really fix that too much. You have to do a lot of work to fix that.
Yeah,
Uh,
because it has to be consistent throughout the
and
whole episode too. At
Yeah, so
least.
that's the problem, is especially if you're watching if you watch episode 1, then 2 back. If you're gonna watch them back to back, you'll notice it's gonna be that much more jarring. I
Yeah.
heard about the murmurs, and then I went back to look, and I'm like, yeah, comparing them, it's just like it is rough. But yeah, hopefully there's still 2 more episodes to redeem it. And maybe it's like I said, it's weird to switch studios like that, for sure. And it was like a 4 or 5 year endeavor, so
Yeah, it's long.
we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. The last bit I'm going to talk about is I won't go into spoilers, but finished season 2 of Oshinoko, and super excited and happy with kind of where it went. Uh, I It kind of ramps up towards the end, second to last episode. I mentioned before, you kind of see where it's going. You're like, yep, I totally see how where this is going to end up, and it pretty much does. The I think it was at the credit sequence for the second to last episode. Um, the very last scene in the credits, they add an extra picture to the animation because you always see a crow in the end, but then you see just a little bit more, which I thought was a fun little extra.
Mm.
I was like, all right. Most of the time, I appreciate when an anime will alter the opening or the ending based off of things that happen in the show. If they add new characters to the party, the team group dynamics, and they add that person's to the opening sequence or the ending sequence, stuff like that. So but yeah, last episode, very solid. Already confirmed for season 3. Um, Funny enough, the Reddit community also very happy, but lamenting the fact that, like, wait a minute, they're going to be doing more with they're going to be doing more with Oshinoko, and that's going to get finished first before Kaguya-sama. you know,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
because Kaguya-sama it's like that never got finished. There's still plenty more to it, or not plenty more, but there's still a
More
whole
to make from the
dynamic and
manga.
arc.
Okay.
Yeah, quite a bit, and then like at least certain other key characters and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I would say I think there's probably at least 2 more arcs or 2 more seasons to Oshinoko as of right now.
Okay.
Um, and uh, yeah, so I'm really interested in seeing the next season. And now that the season's ended, I went to my local library and grabbed. Uh, Actually, they had Uzumaki there, so I went ahead and grabbed it because I hadn't read that one since like high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, I'll grab you. They had like an omnibus, and then they also had Oshinoko, so we grabbed the first 7 volumes of that, which only goes to the start of this season for the most part because it shows like both the mangaka from the TV show and the mangaka from the play on the cover. So
Mm.
the moment I saw them, I quick opened it up mid volume 7. I just started looking through it real quick. And my wife's like, "Wait a minute, what are you doing?" I'm like, "No, no, okay, no spoilers. All right, cool. We already know this." And she's like, "That's kind of a gamble what you just did." I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay."
I
I
took
was
one for the
pretty
team.
confident. I was pretty confident we weren't like going to get beyond.
Okay.
Um, and then just speaking of manga, I had mentioned to you before that I got a friend of mine told me about My Dress Up Darling coming to an end. So I'm like, okay, great. So I went ahead and started reading that a few weeks ago, and I went ahead and messaged my buddy, and I messaged him back out of the blue, being like, "You piece of crap." Uh, and I in quotes, "Yeah, yeah, My Dress Up Darling, just finished." And I'm like, 108 chapters later, next volume, next chapter supposed to be released the 18th of October. I was like, so I read through the whole dang curve
Uh,
up, like only to be
uh,
like, no, no, it's still very much going.
oh, so it's still going on. So he was
Yeah,
just
it's
confused.
and apparently I had looked it up. There was discourse about people were talking about how um it did seem like whatever they were coming to an end of a story arc, and people were just assuming that they were going to end it there.
Oh, but
Um,
okay.
yeah, but no, very much they're still going.
That's funny.
I was I was happy with what I read.
Hmm.
I'm trying to remember now because I think the season 1 ended around chapter 40.
Okay.
Uh, so then from 41 to 108 was all new stuff. Um, and the way I kind of like the way they kind of segment the different arcs as it were by costumes, by like the whatever cosplay event thing they're doing. And they started introducing new, like, I want this character, and they started, instead of just like, they kind of offhandedly mentioned some things in the beginning, like she wants to cosplay as a fighting character, so they barely choose it and do anything with it, and they're like, okay, and but later on they get some more abstract concept, like we're gonna make an actual fake story for you to kind of read to get a better grasp of the thing he's making. um One of them is like a visual novel character, so there's like a whole chapter kind of just backstory about this fake visual novel that they're doing, which is really like dark and twisted. um, and yeah, it's neat. You get some pretty decent character development, character growth. Um, I I'm happy it ends where it is because if it didn't, I would be super angry. But it ends on a good spot. Um, and now I'm just gonna have to wait for the rest of it whenever that happens. But yeah, I mean, there's only like 13 or 14 volumes now. I think it's 13.
Okay.
Now, so uh, yeah, I don't know. It's like I hate my friend for telling me it was finished, so I came into him like, "It's all right, cool. It's coming to an end. All right, I think I know it's gonna. Is it gonna end this way? That'd be kind of interesting." But and then I was just like, "You piece of
Yeah.
garbage! It is
Eh,
totally not over yet."
oh man. Well, at least you're caught up, I guess.
Yeah, my buddy responds with a laughing sticker emoji sticker, being like, "My bad, that was on me." Like,
uh,
yeah, this is what I get for trusting someone who just read a headline to Twitter or something like they're, you know,
I mean, it's almost a good prank, honestly. Like
it was yeah, like I said, I took it
if it had been
once again. I would
intentional,
have
it would
been
have been
super.
even better.
If it was a cliffhanger that I ended on, I would have been like livid, right? Like I spent the
uh,
last couple weeks and like all this time just catching up to that point. No, but
yeah,
My Dress Up Darling, totally worth a read. It's at a good spot. I think I think everyone should watch or read it. It's good.
yeah.
Um,
I'm looking forward. I'm looking
totally.
forward to it coming back,
Yeah.
and it was one of the ones I was kind of yeah, I'd kind of like to read that before the next one comes out, but I haven't had time.
Did you ever finish season one anime?
Oh yeah, yeah, I finished that one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Then like honestly, you can just pick up from like chapter 40 roughly,
Yeah,
if you didn't want to put in the investment for in the beginning. But where it ends right now is really solid, and so I think it's worthwhile. Um, Having gone through it, it's just but so long as you know that's still going, it's an ongoing series.
yeah,
Then when you come into it with different aspects, like I did, like I was, yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna give him crap for that for a while. But what's good? It was a good prank. If it was
yeah,
intentional, but it wasn't.
yeah.
And
Unintentional prank. That's funny.
all right, all right. Well, guys, if you made it this far, we appreciate it. Once again, this is another Dead Pixel, episode 96. Nick, what's some words of wisdom you can give to the people out there?
Um, Whenever your friends tell you things, just check it. Just check up on it on the internet first, and make sure they're not trying to prank you or they're not foolishly mistaken.
Fat check everybody. Never believe what anyone else tells you. Do your own homework. Yes.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right. Well, everyone, until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye.